Well, let's see how this one goes. Hello everyone, this is the Wayback Tech, and in this video I've got yet another Power Mac G5 that I'm going to be unboxing. As you can see, this one is in its original box. Turn this thing around to the side here. Power Mac G5 Quad. Hell yeah. So hopefully this one has survived a bit better than the other ones. I can see, looking through the handles here, that it does have the original factory foam, rigid foam, which is a good thing. I was kind of curious about that. Power Mac G5 Quad 64-bit desktop computer, and they also took the time to put "Fragile, handle with care" stickers on this box. This was delivered by FedEx, and this should prove my point about proper packaging. If the factory packaging isn't good enough for this thing, well then I guess nothing is, but this should be as good as it can get. So this is a Power Mac G5 Quad. Let me see if I can get this thing scooted over here close to the camera so you can all see the specs here, the original factory specs. 2 dual-core 2.5 GHz power PC, G5 processors, 1 MB of level 2 cache per core, dual 1.25 front-side bus. Only 512 megabytes of RAM though, which is interesting. It's a pretty low amount of RAM for a high-end system like this. NVIDIA GeForce 6600 graphics, which is kind of the mid-range card, lower to mid-range card I should say. 7800 GT was the higher end card, and then the fastest one, most highest end, most expensive card was the Quadro FX 4500, which will be going into this system. And I've actually got that sitting right over yonder, right there. That actually won't fit in the case as is. I got to take that metal support bracket off. That's actually for a Dell, but that can be flashed if I need to flash it. That can be flashed to work with the Power Mac, which is what I'm going to do. I don't actually know if that card works. It's supposed to. Super drive, which is Apple's fancy word for a dual-layer DVD-RW drive. We've got 4 PCI Express expansion slots. They are, at least one of them anyway, is 16 lane with a graphics card, and the other ones are 8 lane. Let's see, no, the other one is 8 lane and the other 2 are 4 lane. Okay, they're all 16x slots though, or 16 lane slots I guess I should technically say. We've got optical, got 2 gigabit ports, which makes these a really nice server actually if you need dual Ethernet. So let's go ahead and get this thing meets Energy Star requirements. Yeah, Apple keyboard and Mighty Mouse, which I know this doesn't come with, nor does this come with the power cord. This was actually sold by Goodwill, if you can believe it. Goodwill, actually, some of them anyway, do apparently still take computers. Goodwill of Indiana is where this thing came from. And they were not able to test it because it didn't have power cord. So thankfully I've got that 2.3, which did come with the power cord, which I've actually got completely gutted right now. As you can see, the miscellaneous screws laying on the desk, and I've got the case laying down here. Right there, I just gave that a good wash last night. And I got the power supply to it right there. Zoom in on that. Cellar refurbished, which means I washed it under the sink. Cleaned out very nicely. That is a 1000 watt power supply, according to the label on the power supply itself. You can see those lugs that I was talking about in the previous video, how they come up and they actually screw to the logic board. And these two right here are for the processors, and interestingly enough, that even though that system was a single processor system, the power supply can still support dual processors. So I didn't bother to use a different power supply for that system. They just used a different logic board, and that's the way that I've always seen these. Actually, this particular, what would that be, 3rd gen GMac? Or G5 Mac, 3rd gen, 4th gen, whatever this technically is classified as. But I think these had a 650 watt power supply option as well. I don't remember for sure, but I think it did. But this did come with 1,000 watts, so if I need an extra power supply, I've got one. And that's a big power supply. I mean, just look at how beefily made this thing is. Of course, we're talking about mid-2000s power supply technology here. But you can see it's just massively overbuilt compared to some of these 1,000 watt power supplies nowadays. And it still works, thankfully. So, let's go ahead and get this sucker unboxed. Go ahead and slide him back here a little bit. Alright. They weren't too liberal with the tape, but we've got a few strands there. But whatever, it held together. All right, let's get that camera up here. It is a big box. All right. Let's see where the mouse would have gone right there, and the keyboard would have laid across this. And you would have had your usual booklets and shit down in here, and power cord, things like that. Or maybe they would have been across here, probably, actually. Yeah. Alright. Very well encased in styrofoam carbonite. So we can move the camera over here so you can get a shot of how that foam surrounds that entire case there. That's how they are able to protect these beasts from shipping damage. That foam correctly supports the case and absorbs the impact. And also makes it a lot funner to get the computer out. It's like there's a little bit of damage to the top on the back here, but I know that's not going to be from shipping. There's a little bit of a gouge in the aluminum right there. That's okay. That's the back of the computer anyway, so. Oh. Alright, let's see if this works. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. Came right out of the foam and everything there. Cool. So I'm going to say that thing survived perfectly. It looks absolutely fine. Clean off some of that foam there, but if you look down inside, you can see the way they did the foam there, how it's got the space for the feet, and the center supports the bottom of the case right here. So the impact of the bumps doesn't get transferred to these feet right here and results in the crushing experience that happened on the last case. Alright, let's get this box out of the way. And it is a big box. I might have already said that, but it is a big box. And let's just put this on top of the other case behind me here. Alright. Alright, so you can have a look at the front of it there. Got a little bit of something right here, but I think that's gonna get the camera up here. Jesus. That'll hopefully that'll wipe off there. Take a look at the back of this thing. Looks like it's all there. This right here on the back of it down in here, this is actually a wireless antenna if anyone is wondering what that is. That's a wireless antenna for the built-in airport, or what is it called? Extreme card. Alright. Alright, so let's see here. What am I doing with the camera here? I think we're going... Not sure where I'm at on the camera, but I guess it probably doesn't really matter. And the label does in fact say Quad G5. Looks a little bit dirty in here, but we got a hard drive. The hard drive right there. G5. You can see on the label. Let me zoom in on that serial number right there. 2.5 quad. 512 megabytes, 256 gigabyte hard drive, 16x dual layer, which is actually, well, I'll show you here what that super drive actually is. Here you go. That is a super drive, at least in the case of the other computer. Some of these do have Pioneer drives, but in the case of this one, it's nothing more than a Sony DVD-RW drive with its face missing over the drive tray there. And then they place a little Apple logo on it so you know it's the an Apple part. Woohoo! The Pioneer drives, actually, I think they've actually got an Apple logo on them, and the hard drives will have an Apple logo on them too. Yeah, it's just a normal, average, run-of-the-mill DVD-RW drive. There's nothing special about these things. Even though if you listen to Steve Jobs, he'll tell you that his are the best when he put them in these G5s. Theirs were something special. Better than everybody else's, but the fact of the matter is this is something you could have bought off a Newegg or in retail packaging for about 50, 60, 80 bucks back then. Well, maybe 150. Back then they were more expensive than that, but let's get this camera zoomed out here. Alright. So we're going to need to do a little bit of cleaning here. And it does have all the memory slots populated, so it's definitely got more than 512 megabytes of RAM. So get that fan out of here. It does look like it's got the same 6600 card that the other one did. And the other one, the card actually has some bad capacitors on it, even though it does still work. So you can see the extra RAM right there. Zoom in on that. You can see all 8 slots are populated there. So let's find out how much RAM is actually in this beast. Let's just pull one of these guys out of here. Looks like we've got some upgrade modules in here. That's a 512 meg, and that is an Apple memory module. So it's going to have at least a gig. Okay, there's a 2 gigabyte. Whole bunch of mishmash crap here. Okay, so we've got another 2 gig there. And we've got a 256. Wow. So that would be what, 4.9? That'd be what, 9.5 gig? I'm sure we're going to have 2 256s, 2 512s, and 4 2s. So that'd be, yeah, 9.5 gig of RAM. That's kind of an odd number. It definitely looks a little dusty. It does not look like the cooler has leaked. I don't see any staining on it. This case is kind of dirty. It's not as bad as the other one, but it's definitely going to need a cleaning. But let me get this thing up on the bench here, and we'll have a little bit of a closer look at it. All right, as you can see, we've got pulled out the hard drive here, and it is the original 250 gigabyte hard drive, Max Door, Diamond Max 10, SATA 150. There's the Apple part number. That's definitely the original drive. Okay, so I'm assuming the two 256 megabyte sticks of RAM in this thing are the original, since the system shipped with 512. It would have had one per bank here. I'll take this cover off. Now, the thing I forgot about last time, and I figured this out again once I took it off, or started gutting the case out. On this particular, I guess, revision of G5, this cover right here is actually held in place with a little plastic pin up here, and you got to pop that pin out. Now I'm not too good at popping that thing out and it actually still surviving. So if it breaks, it breaks, and I just say to hell with it because it's, you know, that's the way it is. But that's one way, a good way to good indication as to if one of these things has been gotten into, is if that pin is missing. Because unless people actually have the proper tooling to do that, but I'll tell you, a lot of Apple techs don't really care. A lot of techs in general. Some of them will go through that. I'm sure there's probably a $50 tool that Apple sold to pull that pin out, and I'm not joking with you. I bought a when the new iMacs came out, the new all aluminum ones with that nice, you know, gloss black all, you know, front cover there. Apple sold a screen or glass removal kit, and it was about $100 and I had to order it from Apple because Apple had this thing where you have to have the tool in order to do the work on it for warranty. So that was the required kit that I had to order from Apple to be able to work on those things. It was like $100 for this kit. It consisted of 2 blue microfiber towels, 2 suction cup things to remove it, and it came with one of those roller things, you know, like you use for dog hair. It came with one of those, and it might have come with a bag or something like that. I think that was pretty much it, and that was $100. So $10 worth of stuff from Harbor Freight. They were selling for $90. I still have those items, and I do still use them. They still work pretty good, but that's an example of how Apple, it's like their new $300 book. That's nothing more than a book of pictures of all the products since Steve Jobs returned to Apple. I was watching a video on that, and Linus has a great video spoof of that. You guys got to check it out if you guys are into Linus's stuff, but you know, that was hilarious. But I was sitting there watching this guy actually bought one on YouTube. He did a video. Of course, he got 1.2 million views. That's why he bought it. He made his money back and then some. A lot of people don't get that. A lot of people don't get that when you got these videos of people destroying their iPhones and stuff like that. They get 1 million views. They're getting wealthy off of the ad revenue from those videos. And people say, "Why are you destroying your iPhone 7? You could give that to somebody." No, he can't, because that's his job. He's making money destroying that thing. Those 1.2 million, 1.5 million, 2 million people that just watched that iPhone get destroyed in some lava or whatever, he just made his week's pay on that video. Here's the official Apple pin remover right here. Plastic pin remover. A bent back plate that I just bent in the middle there so I can get in here. It fits absolutely perfectly over that plastic stud. And let's see if I can get that to pop out of there. And once you get that pin out of there, then it's easy to pull that thing off. Yeah, Apple would probably charge like $20 or something like that too. I'm joking a little bit, but not by much. Alright, we'll just do it this way. Just like that. Alright, let's see if we can dental pick this thing into there. There we go. Alright, now it's out of there. Now this thing should slide off and pop out. Except for that one end, for whatever reason. There we go, and there's our magnificent water cooler. This is a little bit different than the other one. As you can see, this one's actually got 2 pumps on it. It's kind of fascinating. So I'm going to get this camera positioned a little bit differently here. Got some kind of a rubber piece right here. It looks like an O-ring. Looks like a busted O-ring. And I know that they sell O-ring kits for these things, so I don't know. I don't know if that's actually from the water cooler, why it's not leaking everywhere if that's the case. But you can see what they did here. They've actually got what looks like epoxy or something right here holding these hoses over these clamps right here. I think this was made by Delphi. Seemed like this thing had a Delphi part number, name or something like that on it. I know that that one that I built years ago, it had Delphi on it, and I thought that was kind of interesting. Delphi makes a lot of stuff for GM in their cars and stuff, so I thought it was kind of fascinating that they would build a water cooler for a computer. It's a pretty thick radiator right there. It's like that thing could cool a small motorcycle or something there. The vents are kind of dirty though. So the fins right there, definitely there's a lot of stuff on those. So I don't think this thing was doing a very good job at cooling those massive furnace G5s. So we'll have to see about how this thing works, if it even does. Hopefully it does. Like I said, the pig mat, that's not wet at all, so it hasn't leaked. See if I can zoom in on that here. Find the correct zoom here. You can see that. Can't get not enough light. There we go. You can see that pig mat down in there. It's perfectly dry. It's never leaked, so I think we're good to go there. Oops, that was the wrong way on that. So I think I'm going to hit this thing with the vacuum before I turn it on. But we do have an airport card down here, which is good. The other one does too. And this is the same card that's in the laptops. Basically, it's just on a riser card. Let me see if I can get that here. I think it's a PCI Express riser card, a mini PCI Express. It just screws onto that board, and then that whole thing just locks in there. It's actually held into this upper panel right here with two plastic screws, which were an absolute bitch to get off from that one. But yeah, I'm itching to try this thing. There is actually, I didn't know this, the other one, I'm sure this one has it too, there's actually a temperature sensor that lives up here on the upper drive cage, I think it is. It's on the back corner back there. You've got the intake temperature sensor up here, right in front of the fans down there on the logic board. It just plugs right in the board. It's a little tiny card, just plugs right in there. But there's another one that looks like the identical board that's mounted on the back of this upper drive cage in the back corner there, and there's a little cable that runs up to it. Yeah, that dust on there was like a lint trap on your dryers. The way that stuff was on it just kind of peeled off of there. It's about a 1/4 inch thick, I'd say. Got it pretty well cleaned up there with the vacuum. I don't feel any air restriction with the vacuum sucking through there, so I think it'll be okay for now. But I'm going to have to pull that thing out of there. Actually, this thing's going to get entirely disassembled if it works. Either way. And washed and stuff like that, like I'm doing with the other one. At the moment of truth, I got the power plugged into it. You can see the little status light right there. Let's push the power button and see what happens here. It sounds like a quad G5 to me. Water block spinning up there. We got life. It's a little loud. Wonder if that's because I've got the side cover off of it. Let me see. Well, it's booting up. No, it's still the same with that side cover on there. And it sounds like there's a CD in the drive there because it spun up. So at least I know that's working. So let's see what this crazy thing boots up into here. Probably Leopard. Could be Tiger. That other Mac had a 500 gig hard drive in it, so that might be going into this system. Although I'll probably put an SSD in here at some point. And why not? It's definitely thinking pretty hard here. Unless it's booting off that CD. I don't know. No, the CD-ROM just spun down, so... And now the fans are kicking up. This thing's definitely thinking pretty hard here. Wow. Let's see if it actually ever boots up into the desktop here. Holy shit. I don't think the other one even took this long to boot up. Sometimes I've seen these Macs where they'll actually crash at this point and the fans will kick up like this one did, but it'll just keep spinning like that and it won't actually tell you anything. So we might have had a kernel panic here or something, I'm not sure, but it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. Alright, I pulled out those 4 sticks of mishmash memory here, the 256s and the 2512s, and I moved the other 2 around the other pair of sticks there, and it's booted up again. I didn't get a startup chime though, which is kind of strange, but it's like the speaker's muted now, but I don't know why that would have happened. But anyway, it's trying to boot up again. And this may end up just needing to be reinstalled. Whatever's on here, it might just need to be reinstalled. It looks like we're going right back to the crash here. I'm guessing that's crashing in the background and it's not saying anything. I'd have to put this thing into verbose mode and find out for sure. So the system, I can get it up into a certain point and then it just freezes up. And that light in the bottom down there, this guy right here comes on. And of course the fan starts spinning up. So I've definitely got a problem here. This thing, I was able to get into the boot menu there. I don't know what TTD for Mac OS X is. I tried to eject the disk, but then of course the system was frozen up already, so it wouldn't eject it. So this that water pump, I believe it's this one right here, sounds a little bit rattly. I don't know if the camera's picking that up or not. So it's probably got a bearing in it that's going bad, I would guess. Unless the impeller's broke inside of there, maybe making a noise, hitting. You know, maybe the chunk's hitting the impeller in there, so I don't know. But I don't know if those things can be serviced or not. Since this thing is sealed with what appears to be epoxy on these hoses, it's not soft like well, it might just be glue, but epoxy is basically the same thing. It's just stronger glue. But it's not squishy as if it was silicone or something like that. It's hard. I mean, this stuff is rock hard. So I don't know that the hoses are going to come off if I were to even try. I'm not sure. This hose has a little bit of a split in it right on the corner there, but that shouldn't be an issue. It's not leaking, so I don't know if I've got a logic board problem, which is unfortunately my gut feeling about this thing, but could be the CPUs. This one down here, the hose here, is definitely warmer than this one is. but that might just mean that it's utilizing this processor more than it is this one. I'm not really sure about that. Could also mean that maybe this one's just not circulating, which, given the fact this pump is noisy, could very well be the case. I'm not sure. I'm going to take the processor module out, which is going to be fun, because you've got screws way down in there that you've got to get out, and then this whole thing will pop out. And I'm going to shoot the pads down in here on both the motherboard or the logic board. We're talking Apple stuff, so it's a logic board, not a motherboard. You know, it's not called a motherboard on Apple. It's a logic board. Stupid. Anyway, yeah. So I'm going to pull these out. I'm going to hit those pads on both sides of the logic board and the processor module with some contact cleaner. Put it back in there. I've done that with the video card already. In fact, I put the video card in this from the 2.3 from the last video, which actually does have popped capacitors on it, and that didn't seem to make a difference. I've also taken the RAM out. I took the RAM out back in here, and I shot that with contact cleaner and put them back in there. That didn't make a difference. And I've also got those 4 sticks of mishmash RAM right here out of the system. That didn't fix it. So I've got a feeling that the logic board's got a problem with it. Probably a broken cold solder joint, broken solder joint, one of the BGA chips on it would be my guess at this point. That's what my fear is. That's what I think's wrong with the 2.5, the other 2.5 system, the dual processor 2.5 water cooled. But I'm not sure. I'm going to do the same thing with that one. Pull the processor module out, reseat it, put it back in there, whatever you want to call it, and see if that fixes it. Maybe it's just a contact problem. I've actually had that happen with AMD processors. I've taken them out of the motherboard, shot the socket with some contact cleaner, put the processor back in, and that fixed it. That's happened a couple times, so maybe that's all that's wrong with this one. But we'll try our best to see if I can get this thing up and running here without looking into replacing the logic board, because I already know the logic board is going to be A, hard to find for the quad, and B, pricey. But I don't know if I'm sure one of these things, I'm sure someone will say we'll throw it in the oven, and I don't like to subject the capacitors and stuff to that kind of heat, so I much prefer to do something with a hot air gun to concentrate the heat on the actual chip itself and not the entire board. But I don't know, we'll see. This is a common problem with these G5s. You know, logic boards just crap out on them. iMacs are far worse, but the G5 Power Macs have logic board issues too, so yeah, we'll figure something out. I'll get this thing running. But the thing that's most important though on something like this is the CPU module, because these things are, you won't see these things on eBay. Very rarely will you ever see them, but currently I don't see them on eBay right now anyway. So the logic board, I did see 1 or 2 of those. The quad boards, but like I said, they're kind of pricey. So anyway, I think that'll wrap it up for this video, and I'll start taking this thing apart and cleaning it up, and probably do another video on it and see if I can get this thing, if anything I've done to it actually can get this thing up and running at that point, because I'm kind of curious to see what's on this hard drive, if nothing else. But that's where we're at right now, so thank you very much for watching, everyone, and we'll see you again right here on the Wayback Tech channel. Peace out, everyone.